The cat is the European's favorite animal. In Germany alone, there are 12 million cats, and the city of Weimar has more than its fair share. When night falls, the cuddly pets turn into predators. To their owners, it's a mystery. What motivates these felines? Where do they go? What do they do when they leave the house? Bauhaus University in Weimar. A central location between the park and the city. The behavioral scientist Dunja Thyssen-Musser has traveled from Hanover to conduct an experiment. She wants to track the nocturnal wanderings of selected cats in Weimar. These collars, especially designed for cats, are essential to her experiment.
Zum Glück muss man heute nicht mehr hinter den Katzen herlaufen.
Fortunately, you don't have to run after the animals anymore. There are GPS collars for cats that are light and comfortable. They have to get used to the collars for a few days, so they will behave normally when the experiment begins. Go their usual routes and not simply stay at home because they're frightened. But as soon as the cats get used to the collars, they go outside just like before. The GPS transmitters have to be small and powerful. They will constantly signal the exact location of the cats over 5 days.
In
this experiment, I'm observing cats that are kept as domestic pets, but are able to go roaming when they want to. I'm interested in where these free spirits go. I'm investigating cats in Weimar because it's a very green town and has a large cat population. Currently, there isn't any scientific study of roaming cats in German-speaking countries. First, the behavioral scientist meets cat owners who are curious about what their pets do when they leave the house. Before beginning the experiment, she needs to check if the animals are fit enough. Now put the collar on her. Put it carefully around her neck and then tighten it gently. Of course, you should ideally do this relaxed and at home. The researcher wants to get a first impression of the cat's character and behavior. How would you describe him in general? We've never had a cat that was so affectionate. He used to be able to jump up onto our laps, but he can't do that anymore. Now he has to grope his way up. When we get old, we can't jump onto a chair either. Here you can see clearly that his ear has been ripped. Yes, he was in a fight. He used to get into scraps from time to time. And here on the right side of his neck, he has a big lymph node. He obviously has inflammation somewhere. Thyssen-Musser selects 10 animals. Old, young, male, female, shy, cheeky. Single pets and group animals. Do they sometimes bring mice or birds home? They sure do. More than enough. Everything. Everything? What exactly? Well, not many birds, we forbid that. The cats aren't completely obedient, but they bring any number of mice home. Last year, at least 50 or 60 mice. That's why we suspect things are happening out there that we don't know anything about. So we're very interested in what they do.
Sehr entspannt aus.
Just look relaxed, smile casually.
Das ist nicht ganz so.
It's not so easy. We live just across the way, near the university grounds.
Okay.
Our cats know the area well.
Uli. Ernie. Tschüss.
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 The familiarization phase begins. Treating their pets to tasty snacks, the owners soon get the animals used to wearing the GPS collars. The cats associate them with a reward, test them, and discover that they don't restrict movement in any way. The collar has a safety lock that opens in an emergency. Some of the cats accept technology so readily that they can be fitted with specially developed cameras to record some of their excursions. A cat's eye view of the world. The cameras supplement the GPS data with images of the cat's adventures. This perspective is also new to the researcher. The park on the Ilm, in the center of Weimar, forms the core of the research area. Thiesenmusser has made contact with cat owners who live in the vicinity of the park and is helped by a colleague familiar with the area. The vet Axel Peukert not only knows Weimar well, some of the cats are his patients. He often walks through the park. The River Ilm divides the park into an eastern and a western section. Grassy meadows characterize the landscape.
Hinter uns ist das Tal der Ilm und diese wilde Wiese.
The Ilm Valley is behind us. This meadow is ideal for mice.
Kann hier recht gut jagen. Ohne Katz.
A cat can hunt very successfully here.
Höhe her.
The grass is just the right height for a cat.
Wenn ich mich aufrichte, schaue. Und
When it stands up, it can survey the entire meadow. And with its wonderfully developed sense of hearing, it can hear where sounds indicate the presence of a prey.
Geräusche wie Beute macht. Und da würde ich mich anpirschen.
A cat can stalk perfectly in this meadow, and of course it has the advantage over a small rodent which is much smaller than a cat and can't see as far.
Ja, der hat viel weniger Überblick, da komme ich einfach besser ran.
Weimar is the unofficial cat capital of Germany. The town has 65,000 human residents and approximately 10,000 cats. The park on the Ilm is an artificial landscape created in the 18th century according to Goethe's design. The poet created a leisure area inspired by nature, with bridges, ruins, and a Roman house in the classicist style that was fashionable at the time. The local vet, who knows the area well, meets his colleague on the university grounds adjoining the park.
Hallo, Sonja Thiesenmusser. Hallo.
Together, they define the research area. Over the next 5 days, the cats will supply the data of their explorations around the clock.
Da ist eine Familie mit 3.
This is a family with 3 cats, Ernie, Wully and Henning. The interesting thing is that the owners are asking themselves whether Henning crosses the street into the park because they think he's very scared of streets. This is Rudi. He's 15 years old. He also lives close to the park with an elderly couple. He's one of the oldest participants in the research program. He's 15. They told me he was often injured. Yes, he was brought to me often as a patient. These 2 single cats are Zora and Lottie. Zora is the one marked orange. I think they must know each other, not personally, but their pheromones.
Vielleicht nicht persönlich, aber über ihre Pheromone sicherlich.
Die haben die bestimmt mal wahrgenommen, ja.
Over the next 5 days, 10 cats will signal their positions every minute. 600 data units per second. 14,400 per day. The cat researcher will gather tens of thousands of data units. These she will read and analyze to study the area in which the cats prowl.
Also mich interessiert besonders zu
I'm especially interested in finding out how big their territories are.
wenn wir jetzt wissen, Weimar.
Since we know there are a lot of cats in Weimar, their territories are probably smaller than, say, that of a farm cat in the countryside. I'm also interested in comparing the behavior of the cats, whether, for instance, the territory of the male cats is bigger than that of the females. Lottie was the first to get used to the GPS collar. Using the data, Thiessen-Musser will analyze Lottie's most interesting paths first.
Lotti
is very fond of people. She's sociable and trusting, not at all shy. That's her character. Lottie loves children as well. Of course, you have to watch out when the little one grabs her that nothing happens. But actually, Lottie gives good signals. One unambiguous signal that Lottie gives several times a day is that she wants to go outside. She starts staking out her core territory in the garden. Through scent glands in her head, cheeks, and paws, she scatters her individual pheromones. This is her domain. I'm very curious to know what she's doing when she's outside and how far she roams. On her travels, Lottie registers the scent marks of other cats, thus recognizing her own boundaries. During the day, she makes lots of little excursions near the house, without a specific destination. Her longest route on the first day takes a westerly direction. On the first day of the study, around 1 p.m., Dunja Thiessen-Musser discovers something surprising. The behavioral scientist is analyzing Lottie's data, thousands of time and position points. In the case of Zora and Lottie, who live in the same area, I was mainly interested in finding out whether they know each other and share a territory, or whether perhaps one runs there and the other takes another direction. Reconstructing this 60-minute excursion from the day's data gives the researcher useful information. Apparently, it's a trip to the border, at which the two animals spy on each other without an actual sighting. They can smell each other. While Lottie first slopes off to the east during the afternoon, she soon turns around and follows a zigzag course westwards. Apparently, she's renewing her scent marks and investigating border violations by other cats. Precisely 12 hours later, shortly after 1 a.m., Zora checks her borders in Lottie's direction and recognizes the movements of her rival from the scent marks. A cat is very interested in seeing how far it can go, for if it just stays where there are no other scent marks, it doesn't know if it's able to expand its territory. Zora's territory is different from that of all the other cats. The data doesn't reveal exactly where she lives. All the other cats have a focus point on which countless data units overlap. Zora, on the other hand, appears to have her home and 3 other favorite locations. Why? She has lots of space, kind owners, and good food. Actually, she should be perfectly content. But she gets disturbing signals from a distance. Her arch-enemy, Lotte, is heading home.
Lotte.
Just hearing the dog Lotte freaks Zora out. Cats have extremely good hearing. They can direct each of their ears individually, and a pocket of skin on the edge of the ear enables them to listen in a precise direction. The dog, Lotte, is a horror for the sensitive Zora. No danger, but massive stress. The dog only wants to play. But Zora will never get used to the clumsy movements and the hectic wagging of the tail, which cats only perform when they're angry. The dog takes over her territory. When Zora lived here on her own, she was the queen. It all belonged to her. She ruled over every room and had several places where she slept. That was over when our dog Lotte moved in. At first she retreated to the upper floors.
Und dann haben wir es geschafft über eine...
And then, after a long time, we managed to establish a sort of peaceful coexistence. We're hoping for some insight into the puzzle.
Über die Rätsel, die sie uns aufgibt.
At least Zora can still retreat to her favorite hedge in the neighbor's garden. It's apparently her refuge. Rudy's situation is quite different. He's the senior in the study group and lives conveniently right next to the park on the Ilm. The cat is an opportunistic hunter. It feeds on the prey it finds easiest to catch. Rudy used to be able to open all the doors. He simply hung on the handle, and if he couldn't open the door immediately, he kicked it until he was inside. But he can't do that anymore, and that's a good thing because it was terrifying sometimes. When we were watching a suspense movie, the cat suddenly shot into the room. That was not pleasant. He was the leader of the pack and chased all the other cats. He was really strong, but he isn't anymore. We often see that he's been bitten badly.
Und jetzt haben wir zweimal festgestellt, ist am Schwanz gebissen worden.
Rudy is really old and no longer very spry. I'm interested to see how big his territory is, whether it's still as large as that of a young cat that's much fitter, or whether Rudy has reduced his territory because he's no longer physically fit and perhaps has had to give up some of it to other cats. During the day, Rudy walks mainly through the neighbors' gardens on the edge of the park. In daytime, the park is very crowded. Interesting, but dangerous. When a dog invades his territory, Rudy arches his back. He puffs himself up and prepares to defend himself against the aggressor, instead of running away. Rudy is a true veteran. It's interesting that Rudy often makes just short excursions. But once a day, he deliberately makes a longer sortie, which takes between 45 minutes and an hour. And he varies these tours. Sometimes he goes north, sometimes south, sometimes west, so that although he doesn't walk nearly as much as the other cats, he still has quite a large territory. Cats are privileged animals. They live with people, but also wander away from their homes quite independently. When they return, they often clean themselves immediately. They aren't just removing dirt and combing fur through their rough tongues. They're taking in new smells. For cats, cleaning is simultaneously hygiene, analysis, and relaxation. Rudy's longest journeys during the first 3 days form a cloverleaf shape, with his home at the center. It's a very energy-efficient way of controlling a territory. Rudy is much more efficient than all the other cats, which refresh their marks everywhere, every day. He's very well organized, one day here, one day there. If a cat refreshes its scent marks about once a week, that's quite sufficient. On the southern edge of the park, 2 more seniors have their home. But they're not friends. Although the family took in the 2 cats at the same time, they have very different characters and live completely different lives. Emily is our pet. We got her 14 years ago because we wanted a cat. Then little Lars turned up. We found him in one of the empty factory buildings around here. He got used to us and learned to trust us very slowly. He's our little stray. The 2 cats avoid each other whenever they can. They only tolerate each other on the terrace where there's food. But they remain mistrustful. Emily spends about 90% of her time in the house. She's now so old that she wants to stay indoors. That's also her territory. If Lars comes inside, she snarls and actually bolts. Outside, it's the other way around. That's Lars's territory. When Emily goes outside, he chases her away. Lars doesn't live in the house with the family. He sleeps in the shed next door. It took a lot of time and patience to win the shy cat's trust. He's still very timid and cautious. He runs away from disturbances and things he doesn't know. Not far from his shed are the abandoned factories. That's where he lived as a kitten, one of many strays, without any contact with humans. I think this is his territory. He'll patrol it from time to time and investigate what's new. This is where the family found Lars as a neglected kitten, and he seems to return from time to time. Surprisingly, although they view Lars as a wild cat, his territory is almost exactly the same as that of his domestic rival. Lars is also a stay-at-home. These 2 have the smallest territory of all the cats in the study, and they take turns using it, sometimes only for a few minutes. Lars's mother was also a wild cat. Some time ago, we caught her in a game trap and had her sterilized, so that we wouldn't have 10 new Larses running around here every year. Orphaned strays, like those that the animal conservationists take to the vet Axel Peukert, they have to be fattened up first. Neglect leads to malnutrition, severe illness, and often death in kittens. Cats adapted to humans and became domesticated 10,000 years ago. Left to their own devices, they suffer from neglect.
Also denen geht's relativ gut.
These ones are doing pretty well, but some have terrible open joints or such bad diarrhea that you want to hold your nose. I'm used to a lot of things, but that's no joke. Sometimes you have to make a selection. Some cats can't survive, they're too weak. I've given away 300 animals in the past 3 years. But we have 10 animals we can't give away. They're not up to it physically or psychologically. In the life of young cats, there's a short time span that will stamp them for the rest of their lives.
Von der 2. bis zur 7. Woche.
Cats should be left with their mother from the 2nd to the 7th week, even better to the 12th week. Then they should get used to humans. All the others who are orphaned after that can be nice cats, but they remain half wild and will never adapt completely to the life of humans. Cats have a very fast reproduction rate. In just a few years, a female cat can become a great-great-great-grandmother with thousands of descendants. Axel Peukert thinks they should be sterilized.
Ich kenne viele Menschen, die eben sagen, ja.
I know a lot of people that think sterilization is mutilation.
Aber es kann natürlich nicht sein,
But of course, we don't want little creatures that are just suffering.
Geschöpfe rauskommen, denen es einfach nur elend geht. Die verbergen.
They hide and we don't see
Wir
it.
sehen das einfach nicht.
Chronic rhinitis, blind in one eye, but this one survived. Peukert has saved many stray cats like Mira.
Sie will jetzt eine neue Besitzerin.
She's doing well. Now she needs a new home.
Okay, der geht's gut und die Katzendichte.
The cat population is so large in Weimar that a cat can't feed itself alone.
Das geht einfach nicht. Die können sich
These animals are dependent on humans.
denken. Ja,
It's not romantic at all. On the contrary, wild cats suffer terribly.
leider so nicht.
3 cats have found a good home close to Bauhaus University. A house with a garden and a caring family. The park is just across the street. But the backyard and the adjoining university grounds are so extensive that the animals can avoid the street. At least, their owners hope they do. When I was a child, I saw our cat being run over by a truck and her eyes bulging out. I still have this image in my head. After that, I said, never again. After all, you really get attached to a cat. Then it suddenly happened. Ernie entered our lives. And then one thing led to another. After Ernie, 4-year-old Wully came along and had a kitten, Henning. He's 2 years old now and also lives with the family. The cats have to make compromises in the house and garden. It's becoming more and more a coalition and coexistence. Without having any great fights, they're able to agree they tolerate each other, but they also avoid each other. However, the owners don't know what the cats do when they're out of sight. Their cats are unusually affectionate. When the owners visit the nearby Bauhaus Cafe, they are kept under surveillance. I'm being followed. I think this section of the grounds is their territory. The cats are familiar with it. It's still part of the neighborhood, and we often come here. If I'm not careful, and mostly I don't notice, Ernie follows me, and it's hard to shake her off. She's very clinging. Sometimes Wully joins her, but she doesn't have the perseverance to stay with us. At some point she branches off. I assume it's because this is the end of her territory. Our male cat Henning hasn't accompanied us so far. We're happy about that because we want him to get gradually used to the street and to be careful. I think male cats are sometimes a bit stupid. At least I've often seen them get run over. In the case of Wully, Henning and Ernie, I'm curious to see whether the 3 cats who live together meet outside the house, or whether, as cats often do, they rub shoulders in the house and then go entirely separate ways outside. The grounds around the cafe are a huge adventure park. The GPS data shows that, unlike the other cats, these 3 are always together outside for a short while each day, even though they don't particularly like each other. The boundaries between playing and fighting for superiority and status are blurred here. What's interesting is that the three cats roam in a very small area at the same time. They can see each other there and have learned to tolerate each other. There's heavy traffic on the street in front of their house, a dangerous tarred road to the park. It's difficult for cats to judge how fast cars are traveling, but they can learn to cope with the danger.
Viele Familien haben ja natürlich Katzen, ganz klar. Und wenn die Straße queren...
Lots of families here have cats, and it's dangerous when they try to cross the street. Firstly, cars and bicycles are a completely different category.
Sind natürlich eine ganz andere Etage, das ist das eine. Und dann...
And second, just as with humans, there are intelligent and less intelligent cats, careful and less careful ones. I know some cats that actually look left and right before crossing the street. They usually get to be quite old. The park across the street entices the cats. Mice, rats, lizards and birds abound. It's a cat's paradise. It's a mix of games and real mouse hunts. Sometimes they even hunt their own species. The cat's prey is small, so they never hunt in groups, always alone. A mouse is only enough food for one cat. Once in the park, Ernie and Wully split up, but the researcher is tracking them both.
In
the case of the three cats, and especially Henning, I wanted to find out if they cross the street, because their owners say Henning is frightened of roads and doesn't dare go across to the park. But when I look at the data, I see that all three cats cross the street and run in the park several times a day. The 50-hectare park has a mixed landscape. Irregular-shaped meadows with flower beds and trees. Relaxing for humans, it's an irresistible hunting ground for cats. Cats are prowlers. They scent the air and listen for their prey. They lie in wait to ambush it, and then they pounce. There's a house on the edge of the park in which the composer Franz Liszt once lived. Ernie loves to come here. With its many hiding places, it's an ideal hunting ground for a cat. The numerous visitors don't bother Ernie. The GPS data shows that Ernie often crosses the street. She doesn't only hear and see the vehicles, she locates them with the sensitive pads on her paws. Of course, the domestic cat has adapted to humans. Not as much as dogs, but the cat has certainly adapted. It doesn't have to hunt anymore. The can opener supplies her with enough food. The domestic cat has an energy requirement of about 40 kilocalories. That's not very much, a little bag of food. But she has a hunting instinct that regularly asserts itself. Cats like to creep up and prowl. They like their prey to hide and move.
Die möchten, dass sich das versteckt, dass sich das bewegt. Der Abschluss der Jagd.
To a cat that's not hungry, the kill itself is uninteresting.
Nicht hungrig ist. Tja, eher Ruck und Zuck und das war's.
But everything else, everything leading up to it, is exciting and fun.
Das ist spannend.
On the hunt, a cat must concentrate all its senses, be mentally and physically focused, and cats love that.
Körperlich aktiv sein, das mögen die.
To humans, they resemble children. Big eyes, snubby noses, round faces, cute. But cats are beasts of prey, efficient, fast hunters. Shrew mice aren't very tasty, and the cat usually gives them to its owner. Apparently they think we are poor hunters. Food is also the focus in the new housing settlement east of the park. Klaus Wölkchen knows the area well. Every day he goes foraging, but in a different way. The cat population is especially high in this district. There are cats living in many of the houses. Our cat is very trusting and isn't scared of humans. He often visits the neighbors, who probably also feed him. Everybody loves him. But for us that's rather unpleasant because we often don't know where he is. Sometimes he doesn't come home for days. I assume he's been living at a neighbor's place. Home alone, Lisa is bored. She's looking for entertainment and would much rather be outside. Scrounging is Klaus Wölkchen's speciality. As a classic visitor cat, he has a daily routine. The popular feline knows where the best food is available. Everything small and fast-moving excites Lisa. The large cat population restricts the size of the individual animal's territory. Even the neighbor's yard is often out of bounds. But the rivals' feeding bowls are simply irresistible. Violated boundaries are often the cause of disputes. The domestic cat is descended from a desert animal. It drinks very little. With the sharp papillae on its quick tongue, it creates a water spout from which it drinks as from a fountain. Klaus Wölkchen doesn't give up. He's always trying to extend his small territory, even when visiting the neighbors. Cats are curious. They're always testing the boundaries. A high-density cat population can mean enormous stress for the animals. Lots of people think, I'll buy myself a cat, I have a garden which the cat can use. But that's not always the case. The garden may already be part of another cat's territory, and your cat doesn't dare go out into its own yard. Especially when a cat is in a new neighborhood, it has to position itself and maybe assert its rights. That's very stressful, and even when it has secured its own territory, it has to continue defending it. It can't afford to simply stay in the house. Somebody else might assert claims to the territory. Supremacy over the food supply is what the dominant cat hopes to achieve in its area. Everything belongs to the boss. But youngsters always pose a threat. Every meter is contested. Each animal defends its territory and continuously tries to expand it. Cats usually settle their territorial disputes with threatening gestures, at a distance. Only rarely does it come to claws and teeth. The weaker animal concedes. When night falls and calm descends upon the town, the cats are at their most active. Lottie embarks on a major sortie. In the daytime, she only makes short excursions. Now she becomes adventurous. She moves faster and more frequently in the dusk than at other times. She crosses the wide street and runs through the long grass towards the river Ilm, which flows through the middle of the park. A short while later, Rudy also leaves the house. The cat's vision gives it an advantage in the dusk. The animal opens its slit-shaped pupils and only needs 1/6 of the light that humans need to see an image. Cats cannot see the color red. On the other hand, they can see multiple shades of blue. All its senses are alert. Now the cat becomes a superior hunter. This evening, the old swing bridge across the Ilm happens to be the scene of a border conflict. Rudy approaches from the east. Lottie advances from the west. The meeting is unintended and unpleasant for both cats. Only the river separates them. They menace each other at a distance. Neither dares cross the bridge. Rudy is making one of his highly efficient excursions tonight. This time, he's patrolling the middle of the park. The river forms a natural boundary. It's tempting to cross it. But neither cat dares violate the border and declare war. For both of them, the risk of being defeated is too great. A truce. The two cats respect each other's territory, at least for tonight. All the cats in the study return home during the night. They have adapted their biorhythm, at least partly, to that of humans. The data shows that Lottie is more cautious than other cats. She only crosses the busy street in Rudy's direction in the twilight. Her territory borders on Zora's in the west and on Rudy's in the east. Lottie's tracks in the park are still very fresh. The very next day, Rudy crosses the old swing bridge. He examines his rival's pheromones for status and claims. This is a challenge to Lottie. The three cats in the northwest section of the park also meet tonight in the university grounds and sit for a while together, quite peaceably. Now, at the feline hour, the loners enjoy the company of other cats. A mysterious phenomenon that has often been observed by researchers, but never explained. After half an hour, the animals split up. One of them takes a very special route. Henning runs through the park to List's house, across a bridge in the direction of Goethe's garden house, and in a wide arc across another bridge back home. The excursion lasts an hour. Henning's owners think he only has a small territory. But almost every night, he runs kilometers, crossing lots of streets, and only then rests in the yard. Of all the cats in the study, Henning has the largest territory. It stretches in all directions and often takes him deep into the park. Henning's territory is 5 times bigger than that of the other cats in his family. Just 2 years old, he's the youngest in the study. The data clearly shows that male cats and young animals have much larger areas of activity than females and older cats. Presumably, Rudy also used to have a much larger territory. At the end of the research week, some of the cat owners meet in Rudy's garden. The vet, Alex Peukert, will present the initial results. Let's see what Lottie does all day. Apparently, she has an enormous territory. That's incredible. Every day she crosses Belvedere Allee, goes to the park, crosses the street again here. Amazing. Yes, of course. And there's more to come. The territories overlap. This is Rudy's territory and this is the park. In the middle, at the river, the paths cross. This must be our house. Exactly, we must be there. And Rudy even goes up there. This is Emily's radius, and this is Lars's territory. Identical. But they patrol the territory at different times. They alternate and avoid each other. Lars follows the exact same route as Emily and wonders, what has she been doing?
Was macht die da?
Some of the results really surprise me. Firstly, that my cats go farther than I thought. I was hoping they didn't cross the street in front of our house so often. And I also find interesting that Lars regularly returns to the place he was born, in the old factory building where we found him. I'm astonished. I wasn't expecting what we've just seen. I would have thought Lottie only had a small radius around the house, perhaps including the neighbors' yards. But I thought it impossible she would go so far. When I saw that, my heart started racing. And I'm still worked up when I think that she's so active and continuously crosses the main road. Whenever we go into town, Rudy sits on the top of the hill and cries, so we always have a bad conscience. I was amazed that he follows these paths on his own, even to the river and the next main road. These results are extremely interesting. Now I can show pet owners how big the territory of their cats can be. I've analyzed the data roughly with my colleague, Dunja Thiesenmusser, and the results were new to me. There aren't many studies on this subject. For behavioral scientists, and we vets also have to be behavioral scientists, these studies are very interesting and extremely informative. In 5 days, just 10 cats have left an almost indecipherable tangle of tracks. All the cats in Weimar have probably divided up each square meter of the town amongst themselves. But the cat's map of Weimar is completely different from the one we humans know.
Für mich war sehr interessant zu sehen, wie die Katzen sich tatsächlich bewegen.
I was fascinated by the cats' movements, especially where they differ radically from the expectations and descriptions of their owners. Now it would be interesting to collect the data for all the cats in Weimar, perhaps over the period of a year or even longer, so we can establish truly representative patterns. But that would be an enormous undertaking.
Ganz Weimar alle Katzen zu monitoren und das Ganze.
This kind of research on cats is only in the initial stages. In the coming decades, we'll learn a lot more about these animals. Things we don't know now.
Also ich bin ja der Meinung, dass Tiere
I think animals have a character and a soul.
und so wie wir
Just as we humans vary a lot, have various needs and live varying lives, so do cats.
leben, so machen das auch die Katzen. Das ist einfach so. Und die sind
They include everything, from phlegmatic types to narcissists.
bis zum Narzissten, da ist, glaube ich, alles dabei.